You just go ahead.
Mine wasn't improved much since last week.
It's all good. Go ahead and take us from the top, Dylan. I gotta see this thing. This is a 2-week project. After programming for 2 weeks, this is what was made. So let's see it. This is sick. Y'all are doing such a good job. All y'all already. Yeah, just go ahead and just give a little shitty presentation. Let's get it.
Okay. So this is the home page. I've got a couple different things going here. I got background images. I got flex boxes. I got the footer was probably the most difficult, getting it to stay at the bottom of the page. And there's a couple of buggy things on the other linked pages. You'll see that later. I got about us, the spacing here between these with 2 different flex boxes. This is where it's kind of buggy. If I don't have anything in my body, the footer doesn't go to the bottom of the page. Spent like a good 2 hours trying to figure that out. I have no idea. I'll get it. And then job section. I messed around with some tables. I got
Have you tried the space between property on Flexbox? I don't know if your whole page is a Flexbox, but if it is, and you use like justify like let's say your whole thing is a column, and you use justify content space between. That should probably put it at the end, or you might need to do something else to get it at the end. But I think space between.
I don't have the whole pages of Flexbox. Maybe that's part of the issue I was running into.
No, I have no idea how you coded it. So there's a million different ways.
And then I got a link here inside that pulls up an email to the person that it is.
Nice.
And that's it. I got.
Hell yeah! Everybody give Dylan a round of applause. That was sick.
Oh yeah. I gotta add a donate button to mine too.
Yeah, I got a donate button, but I didn't make it work. I should have made it work. Link to my OnlyFans page.
All right, who's next?
I mean, I can share mine just because it's so. There's not much of it, but all right, let's see. Share screen. Okay, so just like last week, this is essentially. I pretty much finished the joke. So last week you saw that this was a hyperlink to my second HTML page, but I didn't finish the joke. Anyways, oh wait, I need to share audio because it's part of the joke. Hold on.
You have the graphic design part of web development down pat.
Okay. So I don't think this is loud enough for y'all to hear in the video, but.
Well. You've come to find the secret of the universe. The answer you seek lies in the link below.
Nice. Nice.
So
now, did you make the games pop up?
Nah, it's a gift. But what is interesting about this webpage is that so Google Chrome doesn't allow autoplay for sound. So
really?
So what I did to get around that and have the troll sound was there's a 1 second clip of silence that plays, and then the second clip plays, and therefore Chrome will allow, I guess, you to hear that sound.
Interesting. I also bet there's a way to override that, but we'll figure that out another day.
For sure.
Everybody,
but I'll say also this. Oh. Hold on. X Games finalists.
Oh my God. No, skip it. Turn it off.
All right. Sounds good.
I missed
it. It's 20 seconds. We gotta watch.
Do y'all see me with hair? What the fuck?
This was back in the college days.
Wow, that's straight 2000s YouTube right there.
I literally did a tiny ass bunny hop, and you can't tell because it was.
I know you can't really tell.
That was fun times though. Alrighty, Cam. Last but not least, let's get it. Everybody, give Hector a round of applause though. That was sick.
Ooh. That's nice. Thank you.
Yeah, mine hasn't really changed. I was doing a lot of JavaScript though, looking up some stuff, looking up how to do if-else statements and else statements. you know, but I haven't been able to incorporate it here yet because I haven't really thought of anything. Like
Yeah,
most of the videos I
we're
saw.
probably not going to be able to incorporate that stuff for a little while here. It's going to
Whoa,
take
this guy's
some time.
ambitious. Live chat stream. Whoa, I like that.
Yeah,
I like
that's gonna be hard, man. That's gonna be hard, but we'll see. We'll see what we can get there. And then we
You'll
just got
get it. You'll get it in 15 weeks. I bet if you bust ass.
Yeah, man. I'm there, man. I've been looking
Right.
up all my JavaScript stuff. You know, man. Still the same thing though, pretty much.
Yeah.
Add some more pictures in there, and just got to come up with some more ideas.
Sick. All right. Give him a round of applause. All right. So first of all, like I just want to say, all of your apps look good. Like they look good. Like to be 100% honest, none of them are the nicest things I've ever seen, but they're also all quality. I am more impressed by some of those than I've been by some of my like 15-week students who are doing it full time, just as far as like a styling perspective goes. So just to give you some context on where you're at, you are already a competent person at making HTML, CSS. You're not great at it. Nobody expects you to be great at it, but you are competent at those skills. Those skills are down packed. Let's learn some new skills. Pat yourself on the back. You did a good job. Good project week. Cool. All right.
Very nice.
So today we're going to start learning some motherfucking JavaScript. Okay. So I want everybody, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show y'all a few different ways that we can write JavaScript. Actually, I'm not going to do that. There's a video on that. I made a video on a few different ways that you can write JavaScript. We're going to go with the one that I want y'all to work with the most today, okay? So I want y'all to get all the practice with fucking working in your terminal. So we're going to do it the terminal VS Code kind of way. So what I want you to do is CD into your your folder that you make shit out of. If it's your Higgs code folder, open that. For me, it's going to be my throwaway folder. So I am going to make a new directory. We'll call it JS1. And I am going to open that in code. And bam. Are y'all feeling a lot quicker at opening up projects now?
For sure.
Good. It's almost like you do it 20 times and it becomes nothing. Awesome. So now I want everybody to create a JavaScript file. So just touch. We're going to call it fuckaround.js. Call it whatever you want. I'm just calling mine fuckaround.js. Okay. Sweet. So we're here. All right. Who here has dumped some time into free code camp learning JavaScript? I know Cam has. What about you, Dylan?
Nope. I have not
Nope.
fucked JavaScript.
Hector?
Nope.
But Dylan, if I'm not mistaken, you have some previous exposure to programming. In fact, I know for a fact you have, because I learned how to program when you learned how to program. So that is definitely a fact. So that means that you're going to be able to pick up on some of these concepts maybe easier than other people. We'll find out. I don't know. All right. So the first thing that we got to talk about, though, is let's just talk about how do I see what my code is doing? That's the number one thing. And I'm going to ask Cam. Cam, how do I log something in JavaScript?
So you could do like console.log with the parentheses around it. And there's also another one, document.log, right? And
I don't know. If there is a document.log, I've never used it.
I heard about it, and it says it basically is for HTML. It basically shows up on the website instead of logging it to the console.
Really? Let's try it. I've never seen that before. Let's see. Document.log. Hello. I didn't see it go anywhere.
So let me see.
I don't know. Whatever. It says it's not a function. Can you do document.console?
I don't think it's document.console. Let me see here.
I don't know. Let's not worry about it too much. The main thing that you're going to have to know is console.log. If you only know console.log, that will get you very fucking far. Okay? Console.log just allows us to see what our code is doing. So for example, I am going to console.log a string of hello. Give this a save, and I am going to run this file. Does anybody know how I'm going to run this file? Anybody have an idea?
There's a shortcut.
Is there?
How are you going to run that?
So the way that I run my files is I use a tool that we should all have installed called Node. Again, that's Node. Make that a little bigger. Node. And then let's show you a couple ways of doing it. If I just type in Node here, this is now an interactive console. So I could say like A equals 5, console.log A, and then it spits out A. But what's better is for most of the time is to like actually run a script. So what we can do is node space and then the file name. So here the file name is fuckaround.js. So I type in node space fuckaround.js and hey, look, it spat out hello. Cool. Is anybody confused by that?
Nope. And I did find out what it was. It's document.write.
That's right. Ah, that's different. That's a different thing. Those are not synonyms with each other.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're a little different. That's a different day's discussion, though, I think. So I think, and I'm not 100% sure. All right, cool. So now we have the ability to log different things. All right, so let's do console.log hello. Hello, my name is John should work too. And I'm getting, that thing console logged. Cool. This isn't all that useful, right? All I'm doing is logging a fucking string. Not very interesting. But we have some stuff to learn. So the very first thing that we're going to learn about in JavaScript is called variables. All right, who wants to take a guess at what a variable is that doesn't already know? Basically, I think this rules out everyone but Hector. Hector, what's a variable?
Is essentially an element for JavaScript.
An element for JavaScript? I don't like that definition, but it's a good start. Cam, you want to give it a shot?
Variable is basically something that you're defining.
Yeah, I like that a little more.
You define it with not a condition, but any value, I guess.
Yeah, something we define that has a value. You want to give it a shot too, Dylan?
No, I should know, but no.
I order you, I command you, give it a shot.
Something that represents something else.
Oh, beautiful. All right. So these two are pretty good. They're pretty close. So basically, the definition that I'm going to give you of what a variable is, there's probably a million different ways you could define this. The definition that I'm going to give you and the way that I contextualize this is a variable is a way to store shit temporarily. Let's start with an example. Oh, also, we can define a variable A, for example, with as a value of 5 with, let's go, I don't know, let A equal 5, or maybe const A equals 5. Both of those are valid. Okay, they're different, but they're valid. So for example, I'm going to say let A equals 5. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to console.log A. Who can guess what is going to be printed to my console when I run this file?
5.
5 is correct.
Can I
Yep.
ask a question?
Sure.
Mine is not
Yeah, mine is
showing
getting
an output.
I'm getting uncaught syntax error unexpected identifier.
Unexpected identifier. Is there something to the right of unexpected identifier? Is it like a
No.
parenthesis, a string?
It's, I
Unexpected.
don't know, maybe it doesn't like I don't know.
That error message usually looks like something like this. Unexpected identifier, and then maybe like quotes, and then like a parenthesis or quotes and a minus sign or quotes and a comma sign. So what I want you to do, Hector, is share your screen real quick.
Sure.
Cool.
Let's see.
Also, congratulations. Welcome to the coding club. We get errors here. This is part of coding. And this is part of what the goal is to get you excited about these errors. Oh, it does just say unexpected identifier.
Yeah, it's quite odd.
Because node is not defined. The reason why is because you typed in node, you opened a node terminal, and you're no longer in Zish.
Oh.
Node and then the file name only works when you're back in Zish. So what I would do is, if you could do this, so you could have two terminals open. Do you know how to cancel out like an active node terminal?
No.
Okay, let's give it a shot. Everybody's got to learn this anyways. So you go back to your other terminal. So go back to terminal 1 and hit Control and C. And then it's probably going to ask you to hit it again. So Control C again. And then now you're out of it.
I'm back to Zish. All right,
now
cool.
try typing in node and then throwaway.ts. Tab it out. Tab it out.
Yeah. Nice.
Congratulations. You're a programmer now. A really shitty programmer, but a programmer nonetheless.
All right, cool. But I didn't realize the terminal.
Yep.
All right, cool. Thank you.
No problemo. Anybody else having any issues?
I was, and I don't know. Let me just share my screen.
Please.
I got the right one. Is this one? Yep. Okay, so I had console.log here. I ran node like 3 times and I wasn't getting an output.
Did you
And
save
then,
it?
yes. Then I went
that
to.
looks like to me is you typed it in correctly 3 times, didn't get an output, and then maybe you saved it and then you got the right output. But I don't know. That's what that looks like to me when I see it.
Okay, I don't think, because I came here, I tried doing it from Ubuntu, and you can see what I got. And I just wanted to make sure I had node, so I typed in node, and I did.
Oh, that's because you're in your root folder, not inside of your fuck around JS folder.
Okay.
That's why it wasn't working in Ubuntu. Because look at what folder you're CD'd into in here versus in Ubuntu. You feel me? That's why that wasn't working.
I got you. So then I came back here and I hit run again and it worked.
All right, go ahead and run it again.
Well, it runs now.
Oh. So why don't you try making a change? We'll see if it represents. Why don't you change hello to hello world? Give that a save. Bam. Tab it. Yeah.
I don't know if it was just maybe something buggy happened. I don't
that
know.
happens from time to time. I wouldn't stress too much about it. If it's working now, then you're able to keep up. Cool. So, all right, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. So, all right.
I got a question, John.
Oh, sure, go for it.
And I think this is good for everybody to hear just before we go into JavaScript. Like, I know JavaScript is mostly for like the interaction of a web page, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, what is a good example of some real life JavaScript that we may use every day or something like that, you know?
Cool. So I'll give you an example of one. Let me share my screen. When I go to justicereskill.com or whatever, when I go here, these mod 0, mod 1, this actually comes from, if I go to, whoops, I did not mean to close that. Let me open this up again. So this actually comes from Heroku.com / wait, it's Heroku Justice Reskill. So if I go here, right, and then I go to, I think, what is it? Learning objectives, right? Or actually, I'll go mods. So this is actually a data structure. And what I do is I loop over this data structure to dynamically create these. In other words, my actual front end website doesn't know anything about these until I send it a request to another computer. That computer sends me some data. Based off of that data, I build this. Then I build these. So I go to my learning objectives, right? And now I make another call to here, learning objectives. And then when I'm here, I iterate over this array in order to populate these. Does that make sense?
It's making a little more sense.
Yeah, it's like,
No, that sounds a whole lot like computations, and I got a 7 on that first exam. Please explain that one more time.
sure. Let's say I want to add something to this website, right? I can only store so much data on this website. A really good example would be Facebook. Do you think that your computer downloads everything that's on Facebook whenever you open Facebook?
Right. Okay.
Definitely not. You're getting some information sent to you from a backend server. That means that everybody's Facebook is getting a little bit different of information. The front end's job is to take information from the back end, iterate over it in order to create what you see in front of you.
So what do you mean by iterate over it?
Yeah, so for example, let's look at a learning objective. Here's one, we'll learn a little bit more about this in a second, but here's one learning objective. This learning objective has a title of computer setup and a description of the goal of this learning objective is to do this. Or you know what, let's go to JavaScript basics. Here I have a title and I have a description. So what my front end does is it sends a request to this back end. It says, okay, let me get all of the learning objectives for mod 1. So it gets all the learning objectives for mod 1. For each learning objective, it creates one of these boxes. Each of these boxes is clickable. And when I click this box, it creates this, it generates this part of the page, right? And maybe this is giving you an idea of how much JavaScript is doing, right? Is that starting to make a little bit more sense? Like in this case, none of, if I didn't have any JavaScript going on, I wouldn't have any lessons inside of here. I wouldn't have any learning objectives inside of here because those are not hard coded.
What is it? So it's generating HTML, like
it's
for us to see on a web browser.
There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do with code. HTML. What we're going to typically use it for in a web development environment is dynamically generating HTML. That's going to be one of the primary purposes for us.
Dang.
Does that make sense? That's going to be probably the #1 purpose for us, is how do we create HTML from data? The #1 purpose is definitely going to be that. Do y'all remember how I created like a little Rick and Morty build and burn last time?
Yeah.
So there was an example where, let's say that API changed and they swapped out the characters for other characters. All my code still would have worked perfectly fine. I didn't actually know what data was coming in from the back end. I just said, whatever comes in, apply this to it. Does that make sense?
It does, although you did still write some HTML to fit all that code in there. Whereas this Justice Reskill,
I'm going to request that for like the next week and a half, don't even worry about website. For now, it's going to be, this is like one of those rare situations where I feel like to really understand what's going on, you're going to have to dive deep into the JavaScript itself and understand what's going on in the JavaScript. And then once you understand that a little bit better, we're going to bring you into the realm of websites.
Gotcha.
Hopefully, I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but my hopes are that by project week, you should be able to incorporate some of that. I cannot guarantee that that's going to be the case. It's all going to kind of depend on y'all and see like where y'all get to. But I promise you that this stuff is super important. And if you learn it without a website, you're going to learn how to do it when you get to the point with a website easier. Okay.
Right. That makes sense. All right.
Sweet. I appreciate the question though. That was a really good question. So, all right. So here's a variable. This variable is set to a number. Okay. let's talk about a few different data types that we can set a variable to. So we're going to just call this data types. Okay.
So do you need to write let to create a variable, or is a equal 5 enough?
There's two different things you could do in JavaScript. You could do, well, there's three. There's let, there's const, and there's var. You're going to ignore var for now. You pretty much never need to use var. And the difference between var and let is very slight. There is a difference to it. Don't worry about it for now, though. Let is actually a newer term that JavaScript introduced. It's kind of complicated to explain. We're not going to explain it.
Let doesn't let like you. It's a variable that can change, whereas const is like something that always is going to stay the same.
Yep. So that's exactly what I was going to go over next. Yeah. So let's talk about these two different variables. So the two different keywords we can use. So instead of doing data types next, we'll do keywords. So our two keywords, we're basically going to be, for now, let or const. So let's do this. Let's do an experiment. I'm going to say let a equals 5. And then I'm going to say a equals 4. And then I'm going to console.log a. Now, something I want to make clear here is that you only need this keyword when you are declaring the variable. You can change its value afterwards without the keyword. You only need this keyword if you're declaring this variable for the first time. Make sense?
No, because why? So if you don't use let and you just go a equals 5, then nothing has happened. It's just a random.
Let's see what happens.
It's not even a.
We're just going to start off with a equals 5. And I am going to type in node fuckaround.js, and we're going to see what it says. Ready?
Mhm.
Wait, that should not have worked, actually. It did work. It shouldn't have worked. That should
It
have
worked. So
that
a
should've-
equals 4 overrode.
Do I have another A here?
Yeah,
That
a
should've-
equals 4.
That
right
should have
underneath.
thrown an error. If I was in a browser, that would throw an error, I think. Let me see. I want to make sure that I'm not lying to you. If I did a equals 5. I don't know why that's not throwing an error, but it should throw an error. It should say you need a keyword or something like that. You should be defining this with let. In this case, let would be the appropriate use case.
Now, if you ran it again, it still goes 4, meaning that because a equals 4 is on the 9th line, that's the one that
yeah, that's a really good question. Exactly. So in JavaScript is pretty nice in the sense that in JavaScript, things run from top to bottom, kind of. So we'll go over the cases where it doesn't. But for the type of code we're writing right now, it pretty much runs top to bottom. So if I write let a equals 5, and then I write a equals 4, it rewrites over a to where instead of a equaling 5, it now equals 4. Then by the time it hits the console.log, a was first 5, then it was 4, then we're logging it. Does that make sense?
Oh, I see. So if we wrote a equals 3 on the 11th line, then it would still return 4?
Well, let's find out. Make your hypothesis. Dylan, what's
say
your
it goes-
hypothesis? What do you expect it to log?
4.
What do you expect, Hector?
4.
Cam? What?
Same.
Same? Correct. It will log 4 because it console logs this before it hits that.
Gotcha.
If I were to take this console.log and move it down, as you might expect, 3. Cool.
All right.
Now I'm going to change this let to a const. All right, who can tell me what that's going to equal?
5.
Yep.
What do you say, Cam?
I say 5 too.
Okay,
I
what
might
do
be
you say,
wrong.
Dylan?
3.
So,
Y'all are all wrong. What the? What?
Wait, what?
That should break. Oh no, there it goes. I just didn't save. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
try it again.
Yep. Nope. This is exactly what we should have gotten. What does this error say?
Assignment is a constant variable.
All right, who thinks they can explain that error statement for me?
It's supposed to be a constant
Yeah,
variable, so it can change.
A is a constant. It's not supposed to change, and I changed it. So then JavaScript is like, bro, you fucked up.
Oh, so it's just reminding you that you wrote some bad code.
Yep, exactly. It's reminding me that I wrote some bad code. Now you might ask yourself, why would I ever want to use this thing if it's less flexible and it's going to introduce errors into my code? Was that maybe a thought that crossed any of y'all's mind?
For sure.
Okay, great question if that was a thought. The truth is that if your code is going to cause an unexpected behavior, right? You want to catch it as soon as possible. If that means that your code throws an error, you would rather your code throw an error than have bad deployed code. For this reason,
so if this code was deployed, then A is actually 3.
if this code was deployed, this would actually throw an error on your deployed code.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Now, the reason why we would do this is because we want to catch our errors early, and also because I think it's technically faster to use const than let. But the point is that there are certain situations in one of the videos that I uploaded today, like imagine you're working with a user's data, right? And you wrote a piece of code that accidentally alters that, right? You change a user's social security number, right? And you're working for a government website, right? Well, maybe it would be better to define that social security number with a const. So that way, if you accidentally change it, it's going to throw an error instead of changing it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now that's maybe a hyper exaggerated example. I would say a good rule of thumb is write every variable as a const unless you know for a fact that you need to change it to a let. That is a good way to start programming. And then as you develop a little bit more foresight into what's going on, then you can start being like, okay, I know this thing is going to have to be a let. You'll get a better gauge for things. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation. Cool. So, all right. So we've covered a little bit about, the different types of keywords. Next thing that we're going to talk about is some simple data types. So there's really only 3 simple data types you need to know about. Does anybody know, or is it 3? Maybe there's more. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Does anybody know any of these data types? These simple data types?
Boolean.
What?
Boolean. Is that how you pronounce it?
Beautiful. So we got Boolean. What's a Boolean, Cam?
True or false?
Yup. It's basically true or false.
They say you got to spell it with no capitals.
Correct. What else do we have?
We got strings.
Oh, beautiful. What is a string, Cam?
Any values that are inside a quotation mark.
Okay.
Single or double.
And I think another way we could describe it is like a data type that stores text, right?
Yep.
Cool.
But it's different because if you put a number in there in a string, then that number now becomes like a solidified number. So if you were adding a string and a number, then you wouldn't add them together. They would just basically become one.
You've
right?
been paying attention, my guy. What is that? What is that third data type I'm looking for?
I'm pretty sure it's numbers.
Fucking crushing it. A number is a fucking number. What did you expect?
So if you write even one letter in the number, it turns into a string?
Let's try
Or...
it. That's a really good question. All right, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to put an L here, 5L. Why do you think this little thing is highlighted?
Because it got to be an error.
Yeah. So if you start writing text and you don't put quotations around it, what does JavaScript think it is? Hector, what do you think JavaScript thinks? If I write in hello here, what do you think JavaScript thinks this is, if not a string?
Some sort of command?
Keyword.
or like
I think you can do
keyword.
better than that. It's a keyword, right? A variable,
Okay.
right? It's looking for a variable called hello. It's not looking for a string that contains the text hello. It's looking for a variable called hello. So let's go ahead and run this in the compiler. I am going to try and log hello, okay? So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to run this again. And I'm going to get, hello is not defined, because I haven't used hello as a keyword for anything. Does that make sense?
Well, let me ask you this.
Sure.
It's not a transitive or whatever, so hello doesn't equal a.
Really good question. So the process of this is called declaring a variable. It is whether or not it's left to right is important. Okay. So the thing to the right evaluates before to the thing to the left. So for example, let's say I do a. This is a really good question, and hopefully this will help. I'm going to console.log a again. Let's say I do a equals 5 plus 10. What do you expect if I do console.log a? What do you think I'm going to get?
A equals 5.
What's 5 plus 10, my G?
Oh, I thought you said to the left or to the right, or I don't know. Okay, so a equals 15.
A equals 15, exactly. So this evaluates first. So in other words, it's saying a equals whatever the shit to the right equals. So since 5 plus 10 equals 15, a equals 15. Does that make sense? Let's flip the order on this. If I say 5 plus 10, and then I say equals a, remember that order matters. So now what it's saying is const, and then my new variable name is 5 plus 10, which isn't a valid variable name. And then I'm saying if that equals a is currently undefined. So that is what the compiler is reading right now. It says, I'm going to create a constant variable. This variable is going to have a name of 5 plus 10, which is not a valid name in JavaScript. And we are going to set that equal to a variable that is not defined yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why that doesn't work. That's why this order matters. That was a really good question. So if I do,
now, what if it was like a equals b equals c? Does a equal c?
You cannot do a equals b equals c. You can't define multiple variables at once that way, at least not to my knowledge. There's a syntax here that's way too complex. In general, you're going to do it on multiple lines. So let's say I have a variable named a, const a, or let's do a const b equals 5, const c equals b, right? That's valid. Const a equals c. This is all valid because I've defined b. Now that I've defined b, I can say c equals whatever the value of b equals. Because remember, the way that I think about it is the thing to the right of the equal sign, it just evaluates and then tells you this value. So since this expression is the word, this expression is b equals 5, then that means that c is going to equal b, which equals 5.
So now a equals 5, but what if I want a to return c and not 5?
Then that's a good question, but you don't get it to equal the variable name. You can't work with variable names in that way with programs usually. Okay. Does that make sense? There are exceptions to that rule, but in general, you're not going to get that much use out of learning that weird edge case shit. Right. Those are really good questions. Okay. So in other words, B, and this is kind of where it comes down to the purpose of this. B is a stored value, C is a stored value, A is a stored value. A is not storing the name of the variable that it's equal to. A is just storing a value at a given moment in time. So that if that means that at a given moment in time, A equals C, right? then that
Mhm.
means, and C at that moment in time is 5, then A equals 5. So
Right.
for example, maybe I'll do let's make these all lets. And this is a good thought experiment. So I'm really glad you asked. We'll just do 2 variables. Let's say I do let A equals 1, let B equals 2. And then I'm going to say let B equals A. Okay. And now I'm going to say A equals 3. What do we think B is going to equal now?
3.
Okay. Dylan, what do you think? You're muted.
I think it is gonna throw an error.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
My brain's throwing an error. That's why.
Cam, what do you think?
I think it'll throw an error too because you don't have an adding anywhere in there, like adding B and A together.
Okay. Well, let's see
Like
what it equals. So B actually equals 1 here. All right. So let's talk about this. Here we're saying A equals 1. Then here we're saying B equals A. Now, the way that I want you to think about this, the way I want you to visualize this, is that this part is being calculated. So if I were to calculate the value of A at this line of code, which is N, what does A equal right now?
So B equals past A, not current A.
B does not, I wouldn't even think about it like that. B
Okay.
equals the value of A, and the value of A equals 1. So now I'm saying that B equals 1.
This
Right.
is where the how you just described it goes from top to bottom. This is when that really counts, and whatever your log on that line will be the answer. Okay.
Now, something I'm going to warn you about now that I don't want you to think about yet is that this thought process works perfectly for simple data types, or what we would call primitive data types. It does not work perfectly for non-primitive data types. We're not going to worry about that now. Okay?
Like while loops and stuff.
Yep. While loops is not a data type at all. While loop is a loop. But in general, I just want to throw that out there, that this thing that you understand now, you're understanding in the context of simple data types. So for now, live by it, breathe by it. This is truth. This is gospel. But in a few weeks, we're probably going to undo that thinking. But it's still going to help you to follow that thought process for a while. I promise you. But does this concept make sense? Everything here is being evaluated. And then this is just set to the value. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so I'm going to give y'all a few challenge problems. I'm going to say let A equals 5, let C equals 4, let B equals C, C equals 5, A equals C, and B equals C. Okay? I'm going to give y'all 40 seconds, and I want you to tell me the value of A, B, C. Set timer for 40 seconds.
I think I got it.
Cool. I'm going to give everyone a chance because you're sharp, Hector. I know you, man.
Yeah. Nah.
No, everybody here is sharp. Everybody's doing it. Like, seriously, I'm legit proud of everyone here. Y'all are crushing it. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right.
Well, I'll say this. For one thing, we didn't console log anything. Is that going to affect?
Well, I just was asking what the value of A, B, and C are. Let's do console.log A,
okay.
B, C. And what do we expect? Dylan, what's your answer?
5.
So what's the value of A, B, and C? Just say it in that order.
5, 5, 5.
Cool. Hector, what do you think?
5, 5, 5.
Cool. Cam, what do you think?
You're muted.
Same.
Fuck yes, motherfuckers. You're exactly right. That's exactly what it should equal. So that concept is feeling a little bit more clear, right? Good.
Mhm.
All right, so now let's start working with some of these other data types. So
Let me ask you, it's not a problem that so many variables have the same or equal the same thing.
nope,
Or-
doesn't matter. You can have 100 variables that all equal the same thing and don't give a fuck about each other. They're not
okay.
connected. That
They're not
concept of
connected.
connectivity, you don't even really have to worry about that much in JavaScript. You will later on, but don't even worry about like one variable is actually linked to another variable. That's a more complex coding thing that you're probably not going to have to deal with, called pointers. You will have to deal with it a little bit when it comes to arrays, but it's for the most part in JavaScript, the shit that you're going to be doing, it's not going to be that crazy difficult. And when you get to that point where you've encountered a problem that you need to understand that concept, you're going to be a lot better of a programmer then than you are now. So
Gotcha. All right.
I wouldn't stress too much about it. Okay. So now, what did I call this part to the right of the equal sign here?
Say that again.
What did I call the part to the of the like sentence or whatever to the right? Of
Value.
Yeah, I would call it the value. And then also I used another term for like when I combine multiple things. So for example, if I were to do 5 plus 4, what would this be called?
An expression.
I would call it an expression. And what I mean by an expression is it's like a few things grouped together that JavaScript will calculate. So in other words, this is not a simple value. This is something that gets calculated by JavaScript. That's what I'm going to use by the word expression. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. All right, so we're going to talk about some Boolean values. First, let's just do a simple one. This is the exact same one that I did in my video. It's going to be called Is John Cool? Okay, and we're going to set this equal to true today. Okay, so I am just going to console.log Is John Cool? And you know what? We are going to run this. And what do we think I'm going to log to my screen when I check this?
True.
Yep, it just logs true. Let me change this to a let or whatever. Let's make a different kind. So there we had a Boolean variable that actually was just like set automatically, but we can also create Booleans through expressions. So the most common way to create a Boolean is through some sort of comparison, right? So for example, let's say I want to compare two values. I'll make const value1. We'll set this equal to 5, and then we'll do const value2 equals 6. And now what I could do is we'll call this is value1 greater. Okay, that's going to be the name of this Boolean variable. And what do you think I would write here to the right of this equal sign?
Maybe
False.
value1 is less than value2.
Value1 is less than value2. Is that what you think? Why less than?
I mean, it's just gonna give you a true statement, right? Because
yeah, do I want it to
value1
return true? So I guess here's my question.
Doesn't matter.
If I name this variable is value1 greater, would I want it to be true if value1 is greater or false if value1 is greater?
False. So you can
False
just switch the.
Well, I want it to be
sign.
false because value1 is not greater. So in other words, I am using this variable to check whether or not value1 is greater than value2. So right now, this should equal false. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to check what this equals. Okay. We're going to run this node fuckaround.js. And of course we get false. What do you think we're going to get if I change this to 7?
True.
Yep. And what's cool about this, maybe y'all can start to see some potential in this, is now we're starting to write some code that responds to other code, which is kind of cool, right?
Wait, so value 1 greater than value 2 is what you would call a Boolean?
So I would call this a comparison. And then this expression turns into a Boolean. So in other words, if I'm comparing value 1 is greater than value 2, that either is true or false.
Right.
Does that make sense? Now
right. And how does JavaScript know to, I guess it's just
it
native.
literally just says, oh, okay, 7 is greater than 6. Is that true or false? That's how JavaScript does it.
But why is it not, why is value 1 simply not recording its, like, is value 1 greater? Why is it not logging it as value 1 is greater than value 2?
Because in general, like, programming tries to keep it simple. And if you think about it, if you're saying value 1 is greater than value 2, right? There's only really one. If you think about this sentence, right? That's either true or false, right? Like either value 1 is greater than the concept here is that to the right, this expression is a comparison. We have different comparators we can use. Let's look at these. So comparators that we can use, and this is pretty universal in a lot of languages. The syntax will be different, but the concept is similar. There's greater than or equal to. By the way, I just typed in a greater than sign and then an equal sign, but because I have a special thing going on with my font, it looks like that. Don't worry about it. There's also less than or equal to, and then we have two other types. Or we also have not. So you could put not in front of any of these. So I could do like not less than, I could do not greater than. We could also do an equal sign. So now this one equal sign means that we're declaring a variable. But if we want to compare two values, we could either use 2 equal signs or 3 equal signs is how we compare value. These, for the most part, are the comparators that you're going to need to be familiar with. And it's pretty intuitive. The only 2 that are not necessarily intuitive are these 2.
Yeah, when would I use 3 equal signs versus 2?
Good question. And it's really, this is a JavaScript exclusive thing. For the most part, you should always use 3 equal signs. It's more robust. But let's explain it. So let's say I have value 1 equals 7, and value 2 is going to equal a string that says 7, right? Here, I'm going to do 2 equal signs. What do we think I'm going to get with 2 equal signs? Just make a complete guess.
True.
True? What do you think, Hector?
Is value 1 greater or equal? Wait, is value 1 greater equals value 1?
Right now, we're just checking.
I see, because that's a comparator. Right, right.
So we're just checking, does value 1 equal value 2?
Oh, I see.
What do you think we're going to get?
It wouldn't know because it's comparing a number versus what it perceives as text.
Great intuition. What do you think, Dylan?
I don't know, man.
Just said that we should always use 3, so I'm going to say that it's not going to work.
Okay, so it is going to equal true, actually. And this is, Hector hit the nail right on the head on why. And I could tell by his answer that Cam knew this concept as well. So props to both of y'all for that. So here's the situation, okay? basically 2 equal signs is like roughly equal to. Is value 1 roughly equal to value 2? That's the way you could think about it. So even though these are technically 2 different data types, it will console.log true here. It says, yes, it is true that these 2 are roughly equal to each other.
But if
To
you
be
use
honest,
3,
what?
if you use 3 equal signs, then it would it generate the error because it would say no, it's not truly equal.
It wouldn't generate an error. It's just going to return false.
False. Right. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Cool. How do we feel about that concept?
All right, cool.
The word for this is strictly equals, and the other one is just equals. A lot of good languages don't have this concept of roughly equal to. And honestly,
yeah, it sounds like it's pretty murky waters. I don't know if I like that.
That's great that you're recognizing that. That's why I literally say don't even use it. If you're using that, you're probably fucking up your code somewhere else.
Yeah.
To be 100% honest.
Okay.
Because doesn't the 3 equal signs like basically mean that like it's trying to look for the specific value type or data type, whereas the other one,
right, saying it better be equal verbatim. Like whereas we could see here that 7 does not equal. I mean, 7 is a number in value 1, but in value 2, it's like saying a text of 7, which is weird.
Y'all are both on the money, so good job. Cool. Dylan, what's the difference between 1 equal sign and either 2 or 3 equal signs in how they're used? That's so random, buddy.
I don't know.
Well, I
couldn't tell you the difference.
Okay, how am I using 1 equal sign here?
You're setting a variable.
Yeah, I'm declaring the value of a variable. How am I using these 3 equal signs here?
To compare exact data types.
Beautiful. So now give me a difference between either of these 2 and this. What is the key difference there? You just said it. I just feel like you got to just put those words together yourself and you're going to understand that concept. So give me an explanation.
Right, but I still don't understand why you couldn't just use 1 equal sign.
Well, let's see what happens.
Does it not do a comparison if you just use?
Exactly. It doesn't know what that means. It says, what is that? What does he want me to do right now? In fact, this actually tries to do something more complex, which is it tries to turn it into a function, which is not what is correct.
So the 1 equal sign can only be used to declare a variable for right now, and then.
Exactly.
Okay.
The 2 equal sign is like a comparison.
So the 2 equal sign is like a command, whereas the first 1 equal sign is.
It's a comparator.
Comparator.
I would not call it a command. So these words can be a little bit finicky, but it's worth being specific on them because it's going to actually deepen your understanding. It's not like English where you learn a fancy word and it doesn't really serve much purpose other than to sound smart. Like with programming, actually being able to identify some of these like words will help the way you think about it. Because, for example, if I called this a command, there's like a valid use case for command as a word, and this isn't it. So it would fuck me up if someone was trying to tell me what a command is. So it's worth, just if you ever think I'm being a nitpicky asshole, I just want you to know that there's a purpose to like getting specific with these terms. So hopefully you don't think I'm being a dick here.
No, it makes sense.
Cool. But yeah, and I fuck up shit too. There's plenty of concepts that are like high level that I say it the way that I understand it, and the way I understand it's not completely correct. So like that's part of the learning process. So I'm not trying to shit on anyone for having like less knowledge or whatever. Like it's much better to ask those questions than to not ask them. So let's go ahead and I want everybody, here, let's do this. We're gonna make some variables here. We're gonna make const apples, or no, we'll just do A equals 5, const B equals 6, const C equals 0. We'll do 2. And now what I want you to do is we're going to make 3 variables. Okay. I'm going to do is a greater than 3. We'll do const is b equal to, whoops.
By the way, would you say that JavaScript prefers camel script or
Camel case, correct.
Camel case?
Great question. Yes, everything camel case in JavaScript, except for class names. So I want you to create values for these variables, and we'll do const is a, oh, this is a good one, less than b and greater than c. I didn't give you that one. You're going to have to Google it. So I want you to write, whoops, the expressions to the right here that will give you the correct values for these. Okay, I'm going to put a minute on the, I'll put 2 minutes on the clock. So I want you to basically create these variable names. So here it would be, I don't know, I'll let you figure it out, but you're setting it equal to something. Okay, set timer for 2 minutes.
Your timer is set for 2 minutes.
Bam. You're going to have to Google something for this one. I gotta get some water. Motherfuckers. By the way, something to note here. I just want y'all to pay attention to the variable names specifically for these Boolean values. How they all start with is.
Yeah, I noticed that because I mistakenly had a space between is b equal,
Yeah.
and then it was returning
Doesn't
an
that
error.
make it easy to understand the purpose of the variable?
Oh, I see. It's starting off a true or false statement.
Yep.
Type of.
Exactly. Is this thing what I want it to be? A lot of times is, or is this thing what I expect, or whatever. That's typically how we define Booleans. Will be like some especially variables. Sometimes you can make a whole function that does that. Don't worry about it though. All right, cool. All right, someone start me off, Hector. What am I doing here?
Wait, I haven't even started. I just wrote everything down. I'm a very slow typer. But
Oh, Jesus. Do I need to set timer for another minute? Who wants another minute?
But not let someone else go ahead. Let me see. Wait.
I think I know.
Oh, okay.
But
no. Cam's good at this shit. Give him the last one.
Yeah, true, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
let's do that.
space equal sign space a greater sign 3.
Wait, shit. Oh, God damn it. What's going on here? Okay. Space equal sign space. What is it?
Space greater than 3.
Cool. Let's check it. What do we expect our answer to be if it's correct?
True.
Yes. Oh, whoops.
Uh-oh.
I think I fucked something up. Hang on.
Is value 1 greater than? Oh, did you save it?
I think so. Is value 1 greater? Oh, it's just this is there. True. Cool. We got it. All right, Hector, start me off on 2. Best for
Not
last,
even-
Cam.
Not even sure though. Is B equal to A? Then you go. So wait, what am I trying? What am I trying to accomplish?
Well,
I
let me
guess.
ask you this. If I'm asking the question, is B equal to A? What 2
Mhm.
variables would I be
Well-
comparing to each other?
B and A, which is 6 and 5, which we know is not equal. So
Yep.
how do I write that? I'm not sure.
Yep. How do we write this? I don't want you to like hard code.
So we're not
solve.
saying we're not.
I'm not telling you to get
Oh,
this thing to
okay.
equal true. I'm telling you to get it to equal what it should
Uh,
for whatever these variables are defined as.
so we're just saying B is greater than A, or what?
What are we checking? We want to see if B is equal to A, right? What's the equal comparator?
The equal comparator.
Yep. How do I check to see if 2 things are equal to each other?
Not sure.
Google it, baby. You know the answer.
Do I?
Yeah, you just haven't
You
practiced
know
it.
it, man. I know you know it.
I know you know it. We already talked about it.
How do I check that something? Okay, let me see these comparators. So no, I have no clue, man.
All right, what does this comparator do?
It's telling you that it's greater than.
No, you're checking to see if the thing on the left of it is greater than the thing on the right. What does this comparator do?
Greater than or equal to. Oh, so it's just greater than or equal to?
Yeah, you're checking to see if the thing on the left of it is equal to the thing, is greater than or equal to the thing on the right. What do you think this one does?
Oh, that one's asking if it's roughly equal to.
Yep, if the thing on the left is roughly equal to the thing on the right. What does this one do?
Oh, I see. So what we're doing is B 3 equals sign A.
Oh, beautiful. I knew you had it. Cool, let's check it. Is B equal to A? Run it. False. Is that a good thing or a bad thing that we got false?
It's a good thing.
Yep, because B is not equal to A. But let's see what we get if we do make B equal to A. What do we expect now?
True.
Cool, we got true, exactly. All right, Cam, star player, MVP.
Oh man, I'm nothing but a bench warmer, man. But I'm trying to get in the game, man. But I would say A. I mean, not A. You put B first, and then the greater symbol, and then A, and then the greater symbol, and then C. Would that be right?
That's a great guess. And mathematically, that's exactly how you would write it. A is less than B and greater than C. That's exactly how you would write it mathematically. Unfortunately, JavaScript cannot interpret it that way. So in JavaScript, if we want to tack on multiple things, if we want to say if A is less than B and A is
hang on. Let me do this one more time, okay? Let me do this one more time. Okay, so put B is greater than A, and then you'll use the key above 7 twice, right?
Ampersands is what those are called.
Space, and then A is greater than C.
Yup. A is greater than C. That's exactly right. Okay, so let's find a scenario where this will be true. Let's say A is less than B, okay, and greater than C. That seems like it should return true. So let's see what we have here. Is A less than B and greater than C. Let's see. Right now it should return true. Cool, it works. Let's make C equal to A, and that should make it not true. False. It doesn't work. Perfect. That means you wrote that code beautifully. Excellent job. The thing I want everyone to see here is if you have to check multiple conditions and stack them on to each other with and statements, you have to check one comparison at a time. Does that make sense?
I'm getting an error here where it's saying syntax error, missing initializer and const declaration.
Okay, share your screen.
Okay.
Sounds like you're missing a const.
Yeah. Let me see.
What's it saying? Missing.
So if I hit node throwaway, right?
Yep. Scroll up a little bit.
Mhm.
Oh, because you haven't set 8 equal to a value. So comment out line 8. Does everybody know how to comment out in VS Code? There's a little cheat code for it.
Oh,
So
I have to.
Nope. You don't have to highlight the whole line. Put your cursor anywhere on that line. Now hit. Put it all the way in. You can put it all the way in the middle just to illustrate a point. Put it anywhere on the line, like in the middle somewhere. Just okay, cool. Your cursor's on that line. Hit command and /.
Command, is that for Windows? What is
Control and / for Windows, sorry.
Cool.
Now try
so if
running
I
code.
hit save and I go node, oops, what did I just do?
You just wrote
sorry.
node in line 8.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Cool.
Wow, it's very finicky.
Oh yeah, welcome to coding. So this is why, by the way, this is why a lot of people will quit around the JavaScript phase because it's frustrating. There's fucking shit ton of errors. Your computer's going to be yelling at you all the time, and you have to be like, fine, I'll take it, computer, because you're going to have to put up with that in order to learn this shit, and that's just the way it goes. But also, we're all here for you, and you're going to learn it, so it's going to be good. This is a great situation, by the way, where maybe if you were getting stuck on something like that, you could copy and paste your code into Pumble, and someone could help you. So just throwing that out there. Also, if any of y'all want to look for jobs in Colorado, I will get you hooked up on the Denver developer Slack. So
cool.
there's an option.
It's a little too cold for me in Denver.
Straight bitch. No, I'm just kidding. It's not even that cold out here. It's like the warmest cold state there is. It'll be like 20 one day and then 60 the next.
Yeah, I'd rather it be 70 all year round like it is in Florida.
I need to be near beach.
Yeah, go move out to Dillon, Cam. And fucking Hector, actually. Hector's in fucking Miami right now.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be in Miami right now.
Miami's pretty nice.
Y'all gonna have to link up when you go out there, Cam.
Yeah.
You know it.
They'll take you to get that fucking high quality Cuban coffee that's like $1. That shit is the bomb. Oh my god. Sorry.
Dude, it's Cuban crack.
Yep.
For sure.
Get them Cuban cigars. I know Hector's got the
But all right. So
all right. Let's see. All right.
oh man, you don't even want to know.
Okay. So now we've dealt with these simple data types. And what we're going to do next is start talking about well, I guess we could talk about some of the properties of some of these. Boolean is pretty straightforward. It's just going to equal true or false. There's really not much else to it. It's either going to equal true or false. You create them usually through some kind of expression, right? Strings, there are some things we should know about strings. You can get like the length of a string. So you can get like a string's length, for example. That's a pretty common one. String length is a thing you could get very easily. So for example, you could do let A equal hello. And then if I console.log a.length, what do you think I'm going to get? Any ideas?
Five.
We get
5.
Yep. Oh, the only problem is I have an A somewhere else. So let's call this hello. Oh, and then this needs to be hello.
Well, oh, I see what you're saying. 'Cause it's constant. If it was
No,
okay,
it
gotcha.
is a 5. Now we can mess around with this. You don't even need to have a variable. You could also substitute it for literally putting the exact value in there. I can do hello.length works too. 2 syntaxes for the same thing. Let's go ahead and try doing that on a number and see what that does. Oh shit, it says, invalid or unexpected token. Why? Because I'm trying to find the length of a number, which is not a valid property of a number. So
Right, it's not a string.
yeah, something else that we never got to talk about is like adding. So does anybody have I know Cam does. Does anybody have an idea? If I were to say a plus 5, I'm adding a string to a number. Does anybody have an idea of what would happen? In fact, let's just start off with a string. If I just have a and then plus a, does anybody know what that will equal?
AA.
Yep, exactly. That's how string addition works, is it literally just lumps the two together. You cannot do string subtraction, string division, it doesn't make sense.
And what you set A as go up?
What? What was that, Hector? You kind of broke up a little bit. Is it me breaking up or is it Hector?
Oh, picture.
Yeah, I think it's Hector.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so why doesn't it go 10? I was gonna.
Oh, is this referencing the
I was
variable
gonna
A?
say.
Good question. Is this referencing the
Sorry,
variable
can you
A
guys
or
hear
is
me
it
now,
referencing
or
a string that says
can you hear
A?
me now or no?
I can hear you, but it's glitchy.
Oh,
Yeah.
So Hector, my question for you is this referencing the variable A or a string?
hold on.
All right, I'm gonna wait a second.
No, you're gonna hold on. I think my router crapped out on me.
Okay.
Yeah. So please continue. I'll catch the video. Give me a second. Let me see what's going on.
Sure. I'm gonna take a second to rub my eyes and slap my face to wake myself up. And then my goal is, so to be 100% honest with y'all, until you really can start working through problems with arrays and being able to do some stuff with arrays, it's not going to be a whole lot useful to connect it to websites yet. So my goal is hopefully by next week we'll be there. I don't know. It kind of depends on y'all. Hector, say something to me when you're back on.
All right, I think I'm back on. Can you guys hear me?
Oh yeah, it's way better.
All right, cool.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
So my question was, why is it not
variable-
returning? Yeah, my question was, why is it not returning 10?
Great question. With this defined as a string, is it referencing a variable or is it referencing its own thing, which is a string right now?
So the quotations are turning it into a string?
Yep.
Oh, okay,
Exactly.
so it's ignoring.
It's ignoring the variable name. It doesn't care. I'm saying, okay, aside from whatever variable names I have, this is just a string that says A at
Gotcha.
this moment in time. Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
So string addition just literally lumps two things together. That's all that it does. So cool. If you want, watch, what do you think this is going to be now? What does A equal? 5? I don't remember. A equals 3.
Oh, 3.
What do you think this is going to equal now?
3A.
Correct. So note that if you try to add a string and a number in JavaScript, it just turns it into a string. Other languages will yell at you for trying to do that.
Let me ask you, so what is exactly console.log? And if I have multiple console.logs in my code, then what's going on there?
Console.log logs to your console is like the best way I can describe it for now. On a deeper level, a console is a tool that people incorporate into coding systems to give the programmer feedback on what's going on. So for
Oh, I
example,
see.
if we look at the console in the browser, this is not actually user facing. It doesn't actually change anything that's on the website, but this console is a model that I interact with as a programmer to see what the code is doing. So this console knows about all the code under the hood, which helps me debug things.
Hmm.
Does that answer your question?
So, right. So console.log turns the JavaScript into something that you could interact with. Otherwise, it's
It just
random
spits
code.
Console.log just spits out a value given that JavaScript code that's run.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Okay.
It's literally just saying what is, so this is literally saying what is the value of A at runtime?
So I guess my question is, if line 22 didn't exist and you wrote node space fuckaround.js, then it just wouldn't return anything.
That's what will
Okay.
happen.
I
Yep.
gotcha.
Great question.
That doesn't mean something's not happening, right?
Nope, it does not mean something's not happening. You could have code that does a whole bunch of shit and doesn't log anything. Logging is really more to debug what's going on. We log things so that way we can actually just see what happened.
Gotcha.
I could do code that like adds files onto my computer and doesn't log anything. I could write code that does that. If I wanted to, I could get all of this code to work without logging anything. Does that make sense?
All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Logging is like a portal into our shit to see what's going on. It's especially useful when you're just learning how to program because it just seeing the order in which things fire off is super important. And you can just log things to do that. Make sense?
Yep.
Cool. All righty. So what are we at with time? I'd be down to keep going for another 20 minutes. So the last thing that we're going to talk about today, we'll do arrays and for loops. Yeah, we'll see if we can cover that. It's going to be, I'm going to go a little quick, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know, it might be too fast. We'll find out. So an array is just a list of shit. Okay, it's literally that simple. Let's make an array. We're going to call it, I don't know, names. Okay, an array you open up with the square brackets, and now you just write a list of names. So for example, we got me, we got Dylan, we got Hector, we got Cam, right? Let's go ahead and console.log that.
And that's a string array?
That is an array of strings. You can also like mix the data types in JavaScript. So I could make this like 5 or something like that.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and log this and see what we get. I mean, it literally just basically spits out exactly what I put in, right? We could also put variables in there. So let's say I do let John equals Johnny Higginbottom III. Okay. And if I wanted to, I could also just specify this with that variable. And now, hey, look, it works. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So nothing crazy complex here. And this probably doesn't seem all that useful right now. But there is a use, I promise. So now what we can do is I can index out certain names in here. So for example, an array, you're always indexing by its position. So if this is the first position, we actually have a base of 0 in JavaScript. So this is actually the 0th position. This is the first position, second, third. So if I want to grab that first term, I can index names at 0. And now what do we expect to display on the screen here?
Johnny Higginbottom III.
Johnny Higginbottom III. There we go. Cool. Awesome. So that's kind of cool, right? we just figured out we can actually get some fucking data and do shit with it, right? We're not good at it yet, but let's say this thing, first of all, I want to show y'all another syntax for writing the same thing. A lot of times you will see things written like this. I personally like this better actually to look at. If it's like, especially if it's larger, I think it's a lot better to look at. I think that's just easier on the eyes. If I did more terms, I think it would actually autocorrect it to that. Frankenstein or whatever. Let's see. Maybe I need to keep adding one more. We'll see. At a certain point, it'll say, oh, this is big enough to where I'm going to expand it. I'm just going to keep going. There we go. That's an auto formatter that I have. Y'all don't have that. I'll get y'all set up with it eventually. I want y'all to have that practice of formatting stuff yourself though. So eventually I'll get y'all set up with that though. Yeah. So cool. Here's an array. Now what if I want to, I don't know, loop through an array? So this is where things are going to get a little trippy. We're going to use a thing. This is going to be the hardest concept all day, okay? It's going to be called a for loop. So we're going to try creating a for loop. Dylan's heart probably sunk after his experience in chemical engineering, where they didn't actually teach us how to code. They just expected us to kind of learn it on our own. That was fun. I don't know. Anyways, we're going to make a for loop. Here's the syntax. So first we have to declare like a counter variable. So the counter variable that you'll see very often is I. I'm just going to say let I equals 0. So that means initially the value on I is 0. Then we're going to set a constraint here. For now, we're going to say I is, I don't know, less than 5. Okay. Then we are going to say I plus plus. What I plus plus means is that it's going to increment I after every iteration. This is a weird ass concept, so stay with me if you can. Okay, what I want to do in
the
here.
middle part again.
What, the middle part? This is the
So you
constraint
defined
that
I.
Yep. So this is the
Okay,
constraint that we put on I, and it's like saying, okay, we're going to start out with I equals 0. Right?
And you're gonna stop whenever I is.
Yeah, I'm gonna make some notations here. This is the start of the block. This is.
So I'm not sure what you mean by looping through an array.
Yeah, you'll see. I think hopefully.
Okay.
So actually, to understand a for loop, we don't need an array. So first, we're gonna decontextualize ourselves from the array. Then we'll talk about how we can start using the array. So let's talk about what a for loop does. It goes really fast when it does this. So the only way we could possibly figure out what happens is by console.logging something in here. For now, I'll literally console.log the word something. And we'll change that as time goes on. And then what we'll see is a bunch of console.logs, and then we try to piece together kind of what happened. So let's just go ahead and say fuck it and run this code. I ran it and it logged something 5 times. Now we're going to kind of walk through what happened here because this is kind of weird. So in general, you're creating a counter variable. In this case, we're going to use I. You can also call this thing count. Then you have to change all.
Oh, I see. It hit 5 times because it's counting 0 as 1.
Yep. So first of all, this is something I want to show you here. This count plus plus. Don't stress too much about this, but this is actually a valid syntax outside of for loops. So if I just say like let A equals 5 and then I type in A plus plus, it basically turned A into 6. It's just an increment. It just means add 1 to it. See, I was just adding 1 each time.
If I do A plus plus plus, is it gonna add 2 or?
I don't think so. Nope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Good question. You could also do A. Here, the other thing that you will see is like A equals 5, A, and then you could do plus equals 2, and then that adds 2 to A. So now it turned it into 7 from 5. You could also do A minus minus. Now A equals 6. You could also do A minus equals, I don't know, 7. Now I have -1. Whatever, you get the idea. It's just a way to change the variable. We would call that mutating the variable. Don't worry about it. Because what I'm not doing is I'm not necessarily saying A equals, I don't know. Anyways, we're changing the value of the variable is what it's doing. That would be a mutation is what we would call it. Don't worry about it, though. We'll focus more on that another time. Okay, so the way that I want you to think about a for loop is 3 parts. So 3 parts. Or 3 arguments is what we'll call it. The first argument is going to define the starting point. The second argument defines the ending, the stopping point. And the third argument defines what you do to the counting variable at the end of the block. And you know what? I am just going to put this on a new line so that way you can read it. Okay? So let's talk about this.
That's what you do.
This is
So
weird.
is it saying like, so is it like first starting point, second ending point, third how you get to the ending point?
So first, we're going to start with a variable called count. Count equals 0. Okay? So first thing that it does is it checks, is the count less than 5? My question to you, is 0 less than 5?
Yes.
Okay, so since this statement evaluates to true, it's going to go ahead and run this block at count equals 0. At the end of this block, it's going to say, okay, the count equals 0. Let's change it now. Let's add to the count. Now the count equals 1. It's going to run through again. Is the count less than 5? Yes. Run through, do the same thing over again. Count equals 2. Run through and do the same thing over again. Count equals 3. Run through and do the same thing again. Now, instead of console.logging something, we're going to console.log this count variable. Okay? So let's go ahead, and I want someone to tell me what they expect. So Hector, what do you expect to see when I run this?
I expect to see count 4 times. Or sorry, let me see, 5 times. Because it's 0.
Yeah, what is the count going to be each time? So count is a variable, right?
Oh, I see. So this is gonna go 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, fucking beautiful. Check it. Ready? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, interesting. So, okay, so the first argument is setting a variable in this specific example. The second argument is a Boolean. And then the third argument is what? What do you call that?
It's what you're doing to the variable after. There's probably a better word for it. But what I'm saying is each time.
What I'm saying is count plus plus. What do you call that? Count plus plus. Or is there no word?
I don't. There's probably a better term.
Is that a command?
I would call it mutation on the variable.
Mutation.
You could also do count plus equals 2 or something like that. Like you can change these like plus equals 2 or something like that, and now it's going to go 0 to 4, whatever. You get the idea. But
I just found it interesting. In that line of code, you have a Boolean, and you could have multiple things going on at once, and it's all good.
Yep.
It's all gravy. Okay.
Yeah, well, this is a very specific syntax for for loops.
Okay.
All right, so now what my question to you, and I'm gonna see if maybe someone else can answer this. Can anybody think of a way that I could console.log all of the names in this names array using this for loop?
Wait, ask that again.
if I want to print all of the names in this names array independently, can you think of a way that I could do that using this for loop?
Can you change count to whatever the variable is up there holding the array name?
Nope, we can actually leave count as count. I think Dylan fell asleep or something.
Well, no, I'm saying like when I say change, I say now set inside of the block.
Yep.
Count
Much
to whatever the variable name is for the array.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying is index the array at the count.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and console.log. Now, instead of console.logging count, we're going to console.log names indexed at the count. And let's see what we get. Hey, look, we got Johnny Higginbottom III. We got Dylan, we got Hector, we got Cam, we got Frankenstein. But guess what? That's not all the names. How would I get this to match the array and be flexible to maybe like an array of different sizes? Any idea?
You have to set that to 7, right?
No, but what if we keep adding to the list and we want to know 8 and 9 without having to
Beautiful
rewrite
thought,
the code?
Hector.
Let me see. Count.
Do y'all remember how I could do string.length? Can you maybe think of another data type that length sounds like an appropriate property for?
Array length?
Yeah, you could just do array.length. So we could do name.length here. And it's names.length. Sorry. Cool. And now if I run this, I think I forgot to save. It. Now we got all of them.
Nice.
So are y'all starting to maybe see how we're inching towards being capable of doing something valuable with JavaScript?
Yeah, I mean, we're already starting to get JavaScript to work for us.
Yep. So now here's a challenge for you before Wednesday. I want you to use this for loop to create a variable. This is going to be a lot that you're going to have to learn. Well, actually, let's just do it together right now. Are y'all down to do something together right now?
Yeah, as long as it takes too long, because my brain's already fried.
All right. So this will be kind of like the summation of everything. I want to create a for loop that filters out any names that are smaller than 5 in length. Okay? That's what I want to do. So the way that I'm going to start this is I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to create a new array. And this array is going to equal an empty array for now. Okay. We can add a term into an array. Let's aside from the for loop, let's just show this. If I go new array dot push, and then I push a 5 into that array, I'm adding a term into this array. Okay. So if I now console.log new array, do you have an idea what it'll be?
5.
Yep. It'll be an array that has a 5 inside of it. And guess what? I could do this same line multiple times, and each time I run it, I'm adding a 5. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So now if I have this new array, this is where we're going to kind of start tying everything together. Okay. How can I only add terms into this new array if the length of that term is greater than 5?
Well, you're going to have to use string length, I'm guessing.
So start me off here. How do I grab the current name? Let's start by making a variable. We'll call it current name equals. What do you think my current name? How would I get my current name?
You scroll up. or let me see.
I can also-
Names equal current name. Oh, okay. So the first position in the array or something.
Would it be the first position?
Oh, so current name count to
How do you
0.
get your
Name.
How do I index
So
name?
you put
first of all?
0. You
What?
put 0. You
Yeah,
put an
but
array box and put 0. Right?
How do I index out a name from names?
A
I don't know,
name.
is it
What
names
name
dot
are you
0?
talking about? Are you talking about John?
What? So
Are you talking about John?
let's say at first count is 0. So I want to pull out John. Okay.
Yeah.
How do I reference it when we're at the first iteration? The count is 0. How do I pull out the name indexed at the count?
You'll put count right there then.
Just count.
With the index of 0 within an array, right?
Count with an index of 0. So what is count right here? What is count?
Count is 0.
Yeah, the count is 0. So what's 0 indexed at 0?
So
Doesn't
that's
really make
make
sense, right?
it's an error. Yeah.
You index an array, you don't index a number. So here what I could do is I can index, what's my array that I want to index?
Names.
Yeah, so I can index names, and then what am I indexing it at?
0.
Count.
0? Okay. All right. And then what am I going to do with that?
Let's see.
Console log.
You'd push to new array.
Okay.
somehow?
So I'm going to do new array dot push current name. Okay. So now when I run this, let's console.log my new array. What do we think I'm going to get right now?
John Higginbottom.
Once?
Yeah, just once.
Nope. We have an
Oh.
array of Johnny Higginbottoms. Why?
Because is it replacing your entire array with the first position?
So what it's doing is we said, okay, all right. So at the start of the block, current name equals names indexed at 0. 0 is never going to change. 0 is going to stay 0 each time. So this thing is going to loop through each term of the array, but each time we're still just indexing the names at 0. How do I index the name at a different point each time in the loop? What variable would I put there?
Count.
Yep. So now let's see what we get. This is starting to look a little bit better. We basically just copied it, right? We basically copied the other array. We said, okay, at the beginning of my block, my current name is going to be my names array indexed at count. And then I'm just going to push that name into my new array, right? Now, does anybody know what we need here to only push that new term into the new array, to only push that name into the array if its length is greater than a certain value? How would I do that? What keyword did I use there? I said
It would be an if else statement.
Yeah, we actually don't even need an else. We just need an if. So an if is pretty easy here. So I'm going to explain an if statement. So in an if statement, it always is going to look something like this. It's going to be if your condition goes inside of the parentheses, and then the thing that you do goes inside of the curly statements. Now, a condition should pretty much always equal a Boolean value. So let's go ahead and just do if true, right? That's a Boolean value. And then if true, we will push it in here. So basically what happens with this if statement is if this thing evaluates to true, it pushes it in. Since I hard coded it to equal true, does anybody have an idea of what we should expect when we run this code?
It'll just have the same thing.
Same exact thing, because we passed every single if statement So it executed it every single time, right?
Right.
Do you have an idea of what my comparator might be to check to see if the current name, if its length is greater than 5?
Right. So if
Current dot-
names dot length.
Names.length. So do I want to check the length of the array, or do I want to check the length of the current name that I'm operating on in my for loop?
Yep.
Dear God.
This is hard, especially at like, what is it, 11 for y'all?
Yeah, it's 11. My brain's fried.
We're almost there. We're in the home stretch. You're gonna feel good
It will
when
be
working on this tomorrow too. What?
It will be current names or current name dot length. And you said greater, right?
Yep.
Then, and I forgot what
It was
else
5.
you said. What else?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
And this to me looks like code that will work. Now it looks to me like when I run this, I'm basically going to filter out all of the names that are not greater than, that are greater than 5.
Now, the term count is just a term for the JavaScript is endemic to JavaScript. You didn't set
Nope.
that
No.
count to anything, right?
That's just a variable I set.
Oh, you did set it.
Yep.
Where did you set
I
that?
have let I just changed it. So I said let count equals 0.
Oh, right. Okay, got you.
Yep. Everything else is based off of that. I could very easily change this to I.
And then you have to put I. Okay, gotcha.
Yep, that works too. Let's see if that works. Am I missing anything? Still works.
Cool.
All right, I'm gonna let y'all go. Y'all fried. I saw that you hopped out for a little bit, Dylan. It's all good.
No, my Zoom
Appreciate y'all
crashed. I
sticking with
apologize.
me. What?
Except my Zoom crashed.
I literally thought you fell asleep for a second.
I also may have.
I mean, it's all good. I know it's like 11 by y'all. So just, hey, I appreciate y'all being out here. Yeah. So how are we feeling about JavaScript? Are you starting to see maybe we're working towards some value in this, right? Like it's not quite there yet, but you could maybe start to see some benefits here.
Yeah, just need to practice.
No,
with it.
100%. I mean, what's interesting is that it is definitely, I think, a bit harder than HTML. HTML seems more about memorization, whereas this is like using sort of like logic games. Like this is some shit that you'd find in an LSAT.
I personally enjoy this stuff more than I enjoy HTML stuff.
Right.
But it's good to be a well-rounded developer. So like if you're the type of developer that tolerates JavaScript and loves HTML, there's a spot for you. If you're the type of developer that tolerates HTML and loves JavaScript, there's a place for you. If you're the type of developer that hates both of those things but is really good at something else, there's a place for you. But I think that in general, this is definitely stuff that you gotta know to some extent. So
yeah, for sure.
I also think like there's a clicking moment with coding. Like coding, you're gonna hate for a while, and then you're gonna have times where you're like, huh, that's kind of cool. But like here, you can imagine what we just did. Yeah, it's kind of hard at first. Like it's really hard at first, but that's a useful skill. And by the way, I could write this in like 2 lines of code and it would take me no effort because I've done it 1,000 times. And you're going to do it 1,000 times too if you actually want to be a developer. So like I promise you that as scary as this looks, this is not, it's not scary once you get good at it. So yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, I appreciate y'all coming out to this. So thank you.
For sure. Thank you, brother, for taking the time.
Absolutely.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Y'all have a great day. Mad love.
All right, sounds good. Are we doing anything for Wednesday or?
Yeah.
They're already
Yeah,
going.
we're doing another. It's lesson week now. So yeah.
Ah, okay. All right. Sounds good to me. I don't like homework.
Like an appropriate amount of content? Too much? Too little?
No, I think that's good. 2 hours. I mean, can't ask for anything more or less. So
good. All right. Yeah, I felt good about that. If we're close, functions will be cool.